How do you know whether a politician is actually going to do what it is they say they'll do? You can only look back on their track record. Making promises is easy, but if you really want to know what someone is going to be like, look at what they did when they had the chance. I'm speaking to all of you today, not just as leader of the Conservative Party, but as a former business secretary. Many of you would have heard me talk about how we needed to deregulate. And you would have seen examples of how I tried to lift the burden off businesses, often arguing with other parts of government, or trying to stop them bringing in yet more well-meaning but burdensome regulation. I saw myself in that role as your champion around the cabinet table. And it is because I know that it is not government that creates growth, it is business. Government often needs to get out of the way. But this is a very difficult argument to make. People want the government to fix everything. They want the government to solve everything. And if you ever sound hesitant, then they will make you out to be a cruel, unfeeling person, as I have discovered to my own personal cost. And this is partly how we have got ourselves into a state where debt is at record levels, and we are spending more on debt servicing than we are on health, or on education, or on defense. That needs to change. We need growth. Too often, we use the word growth as a throwaway comment, without actually thinking about how we can actually create it, or what it even is. Many times, when I'm speaking to members of the public, some assume that money comes from government. The concept of productivity is one that a lot of people don't understand. They think all jobs are economically equal, whereas as business, you will know that some jobs are productive and others less so. I believe that we need to rewire our economy into one where the vast majority of jobs are productive and that those that are not change. This is what I'm here to speak to you about today. But first, I want to acknowledge the reason why I'm standing here not as a government minister, but as the leader of the opposition. And it is because we Conservatives got things wrong. And unless we explain where we got things wrong, we will repeat those mistakes. My father was a GP. He always told me that if you get the diagnosis wrong, the treatment won't work. You'll keep treating the patient over and over again, but they will never get better. And that is what I fear is about to happen in the UK. We haven't done the work which is needed to understand what the root causes of our problems are. And I am worried because the Labour Party are not just repeating many of the mistakes which we made in government, they are doubling down on them and combining them with an unprecedented raid on business. Today, we are all talking about the consequences of the budget, but we do not yet know what the full consequences of their legislative program will be, like their employment rights bill, designed by trade unions. But there is no point in me just complaining about Labour when it was obvious that we Conservatives lost the confidence of business. I was not surprised at how many people attended Labour's prawn cocktail or smoked salmon offensive last year. I know it is because you thought that we didn't understand what your needs and concerns were, and you knew we were going to lose. So as a first step to fix that, I have made sure that the two people who are in the most business-facing roles in my shadow cabinet are people who have run companies themselves, people who understand what you are about. Our Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, was the widely respected chair of the Treasury Select Committee. Before Parliament, though, Mel founded a successful business which he expanded into the US. Our new Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, is a former Treasury Minister and Chartered Accountant. He's been a successful financial analyst and asset manager. He has serious boardroom experience. During the leadership contest, many people kept asking me, what are your policies? This was something that I resisted answering, because there is a lot that we need to fix before a party that's just started in opposition starts with new policies. I believe that we need to begin with first principles. If you're thinking about opening a restaurant, you don't start off with what the menu will be. So what are our principles? I believe that we need to have free and fair competition, not monopolies, not rent-seeking, not corporatism, but a genuine competition that allows new entrants in and those who are no longer productive to evolve or leave the economy. That is what free enterprise is about. We Conservatives must be the party of business, not just big business, not just corporates, but small business too. Every big business started out as a small business, and that is why I'm so concerned that the burden on them is still increasing, with taxes, corporation tax, employers' national insurance, and new regulations. The new government believes that invisible businesses can absorb these costs, but it is everyday people who bear the brunt, either in higher prices or lower wages, sometimes both. We may see the jobs which are lost as a result, but no one ever sees the jobs that never get created. So I am here to show you that I understand businesses' values. I am not here to represent business interests. That's your job. I'm here to let you know the Conservative Party shares your values. I'm often criticized for talking about capitalism. Someone once told me that capitalism is old-fashioned. I don't think so. I think it is important that we explain what capitalism in a free market environment means. Capitalism is not a dirty word. Wealth is not a dirty word. Profit is not a dirty word. But we need to start explaining how these things deliver for the people out there. People who often think that you are in it for yourselves and we, the politicians, are in cahoots. People who think that business is all about greedy fat cats, rather than people who are working hard, entrepreneurs, and those who are making life better for all of us, one way or another. Secondly, we have got to be more precise when we talk about growth. It is not just about increased GDP. It is not even just about increased GDP per capita. You can increase GDP by increasing immigration, but no one feels richer. In fact, some get poorer. You can increase GDP per capita by getting more millionaires and billionaires to move to your country, but that won't necessarily make everyone else better off. In fact, there are many studies that show even when nothing has changed, we are more likely to feel worse when we compare ourselves with those who are a lot wealthier than us. I am talking about real growth. Growth that people can see, growth that people can feel. Seeing an improved environment around them, as well as having more money in their pockets to spend. Knowing that we have enough money to provide security, to protect our families, but also to protect our country in increasingly dangerous times. The bottom line is that economic growth is not the end in itself. It is a means to an end. The end is to make people's lives better. We are not the only country to suffer from low growth. It is plaguing almost all developed countries. As Trade Secretary, just after COVID, I traveled all around the world, and in Italy, Mexico, Japan, the US, Australia, France, people were talking about the same things: a higher cost of living, higher inflation, difficulties controlling mass migration. We are not alone in these problems, but we are unique in our circumstances and our ability to get things moving. That is going to require a change of mindset, and that starts with our politics. Politics needs to accept boundaries. Every day in the legislature, someone has a great new idea that sounds nice in principle, but in practice creates more red tape, more bureaucracy, more burden. The incentive for us as politicians is to keep announcing new nice things. But the way to fix things is not just about creating new laws. We must not be a bureaucratic state. We need to get a proper diagnosis of what is going wrong. Why is capital investment so low? Why is productivity still so stubbornly stalled? I have read endless reports and many reviews with all sorts of potential solutions, improving skills or getting our pensions working harder for us, and we have brought in regulations and policies to address this. And yet still, things are not getting better. I think we need to look again. So I'm not standing here telling you that I have all the answers. I am letting you know that I have seen the system from the inside, and it is broken. We are trying to fix problems with the wrong tools. We are using a mindset and a paradigm that worked well in the late 20th century, but does not work well when we have aggressive competitor economies like China, and when there is rapid technological innovation, when our society is getting older and the birth rate is still too low. More quangos, more interference, more regulations, more laws will not fix that. We need to ask ourselves, what is the role of the state? What can we do to create a level playing field and allow you to go out and fix those problems? Finally, government itself must change. It must change what it does if growth is ever properly to return. We didn't address this when we were in government, and if Labour does not, they will fail. Government is going to have to learn from business about how to work better, quicker, and be more responsive. We can no longer tolerate a situation where building roads takes decades, where Treasury decision-making means railways don't get built, where the planning system stops investments being made by you and your colleagues. Over the last 2 decades, you have all had to transform your business models to account for massive societal and technological change. It is time that government does the same, because what we have now isn't working. They will tell you that there is no alternative. There is. We need an alternative strategy so we can finally unleash the power of business to make our country better. I believe in the immense power of business to do good. You may not be the public sector, but many of you deliver critical services for the public. So I will stand up for the values of business. It's time to defend free enterprise and capitalism, to defend lower taxes, less borrowing, and healthy, real competition. It's time to recognize that business is a force for change. It is time to acknowledge that to get growth, real, meaningful growth, that improves the lives of everyone in Britain, we will have to change what we all do. And that is what the Conservatives, under my leadership, are now about. Thank you.